What types of trails do you really need an enduro bike on? Is it better to be underbiked or overbiked? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go out and do a trail that I did yesterday on my enduro bike. Now yesterday's ride we hit some true enduro trails, but the trails that I'm going to hit today, there are some rough sections, but the top is really smooth. Gets a little rough in the middle, smooths out a little bit at the bottom, but it's really fast. So there are situations where even when the trail is not super rough, I like an enduro bike because when you're going really fast over stuff, the hits just come harder. But I'm gonna ride the Spur today. So the Spur behind me is a trail bike. It's 120 in the front, 120 in the back. Both are 29ers. So yesterday I rode the Sentinel, and then today I'm gonna wear the GoPro on my chest. I'm gonna talk through kind of what the bike feels like. So the question is it better to just plow over stuff with a lot of travel like you can on an enduro bike, or is it better to have a lighter bike that you can flick around, maybe pick the lines a little bit more carefully, but be able to throw the bike around more? Which is more fun? Which is better for these types of trails? Again, I'll have the GoPro. We'll just talk through it. Let's go. I'm on my climb to the top of this mountain, and I want to mention, of course, the biggest advantage of a trail bike is the climbing. Not only is it lighter, but the geometry, like the fork's not as raked out, and it's just a more I guess enjoyable climbing bike. And also you can lock out the suspension. So a lot of enduro bikes today don't have complete lockouts. You can firm it up, but like that Fox X2 that I have on my enduro bike, you can't lock it out, nor can you lock out the fork. And it's really nice to kind of break up your rhythm a little bit and get out of the saddle. And it's really hard to do on suspension that doesn't lock out. So I'll do some fire road climbing. Then we got some tech single track climbing. And so far I can feel like I am moving a little faster on this bike up this climb. This is the steepest part. This is really steep, like 12, 15%, maybe more. It mellows out a little bit down the road. I want to throw in a side note here. When deciding between trail and enduro, part of it depends on who you ride with and how often you ride with people. So if you're on a trail bike and everybody's on an enduro bike, you may beat them up the climbs, but they may beat you down the descents. I've got this tech single track climb to get up to the final area where we start our descent, and this is where trail bikes just absolutely rock, no pun intended. I've got the suspension unlocked, unlike the fire road where I had it locked out. And this gets really steep with some little tech root sections. And the way, because what happens is you have to get your momentum up really quickly for a section, and you kind of recover, but to get the momentum is a lot easier on the trail bike. Here comes a steep section up here. Oh yeah. It's kind of trail where you go to grab a lower gear and you're already in it. New middle black trail right here. Yeah. So the top part of this trail is really smooth, and then you'll hit a few little rock gardens like here. But for the most part, it's very smooth, and I know that I'm gonna prefer the trail bike on this top section. I just love the way I can throw this thing around. Yeah, I can tell the rear tire hit harder compared to the enduro bike on that rock garden. So this is the new middle black in Pisgah.
trail bike is so fun through here. This trail reminds me of Pinhoti 2 in North Georgia. I'm always a bit more cautious when I'm riding by myself. I think what makes this bike so good is its weight and the geometry. So it's almost like cross-country bike weight and trail bike geometry. So this bike's 26 pounds. The Sentinel is a little over 30. So about a 4.5 pound difference between the two bikes. And you don't think 4 pounds would make a big difference, but it really does. Not only in the climbing, but also in the descending. This bike is just a bit more agile, flickable, all those little words you want to use to describe it. Nothing on this trail yet warrants an enduro bike. We'll hit that a little bit later on. Tight turn there. Okay, that's the end of Middle Black. Yeah, that's the old Middle Black. Those roots, that's like a lot of a trail and some gnarly rock sections. Okay, now I'm starting Lower Black, and it's a bit rougher at the top than the bottom. So this type of trail, it kind of depends on how fast you want to go, or whether you need an enduro bike. Oh, that got rough. I hope this Hero 9 is smoothing this out, because if not, it's going to be really jittery. Yeah, so I'm not totally missing the enduro bike on this trail. God, this bike's fun. Another thing about the Spur is it has a little bit of flex in the frame, and so it feels like it has more travel. Oh yeah. So far I wouldn't trade this bike for the Enduro on these trails. That was pretty rough, but still very doable in this trail bike. Definitely worth it for that climb. Rock garden through here. No problem on this bike. Rock gardens. You just got to take it a little bit slower than the enduro bike. It's equally as fun, but you're just not going to go quite as fast unless you just have mad skills. The key on any downhill that's rough, whether you're on a trail or enduro bike, is to stay loose. I would describe this trail as rocky in sections, but not gnarly at all. It's just super fun. I love these kind of trails.
So that was a super fun ride today on the Transition Spur. So to sum up everything, on the ride that I did today, that bike was perfect. I would rather have the trail bike, the Spur, over the Enduro bike, which is the Transition Sentinel. Now, there are trails in Pisgah that I'd rather have the Enduro bike, you know, Bennett Gap, Buckhorn, those kind of trails, Farlow Gap, which I haven't ridden yet, but it's pretty gnarly from what I hear. So those trails I'd like to have the Enduro bike. Now, like I said in the video, there are times when you really want to get the speeds up, even over trails that aren't super rough. Those are times when it's nice to have the Enduro bike. But the bottom line is, like I've said so many times, mid-travel trail bikes that are usually 29ers make the most versatile bike. And trails like I rode today, which are smooth in some sections, and then you have rock gardens, and then of course you've got a lot of climbing, and that's where the trail bike really comes into play. But I really also enjoyed it, as you could hear in the video, on the descents, just being able to throw it around. So yeah, that's my comparison today of the trail bike versus the Enduro bike. Any questions or comments that you have, drop those below. Thanks for watching.